Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my counterpart on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. Coming to you with another full slate tonight. Nate's got a great article on playpicks.com for you guys. Make sure you check that out ahead of tonight's slate. And as always, if you do need a gift card, head over to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those local listings in your area. We tried to give away that gift card on Friday night, Nate, but CJ McCollum only had 27 points, rebounds, and assists combined. So nobody was able to get that total. We're going to have another prop coming up for you here today. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page, and then jump in those comments with the total that we'll provide for you. So let's get into those lines, Nate, to kick off to this week.
Absolutely. We got the college chip tonight, but there are still plenty of NBA games to be intrigued by. We have Wizards plus 4.5 at Raptors, Knicks plus 4.5 at Nets. James Harden is a game time decision there. The Jazz are -5 at Mavericks. The Kings now up to -4.5 at Wolves. Pistons -3 at Thunder. Cavs +9 at Spurs. And the Suns are 14-point favorites at the listless Rockets. So, Josh, what are you feeling most confident about?
Yeah, I think the game I'm looking at that seems odd to me right now is that Toronto Raptors game taking on the Wiz. We are looking at, obviously, if Brad Beal plays or not. That's going to be huge for this spread at only about -5, -5.5 right now. But, without Brad Beal, if he does not play, they're obviously a very, very bad team. They're 1-6 without him so far this year. They average 104 points per game when he's not in the lineup. And their offensive rating dips to all the way down to about 102. And in their last 8, their offense has been struggling hugely. They've only scored about 105 points per game or so. They've got essentially the 27th offensive rating in the league. And that's been pretty much a trend since the All-Star break, and they're 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 overall. So, when you come in with a really bad offense against the Raptors, who, I think can put up some points tonight. They just blew out the Warriors by 53 points, dropping 130. And they've beaten the Wizards in 9 straight. So it's interesting. They might not be without FVV tonight, but I still think that, with Siakam coming in and averaging a good career numbers against the Wiz, over 20 points per game or so, I do think that they're going to be able to handle a small spread without Brad Beal. Definitely monitor that, but I'm still feeling comfortable taking it right now under 6 points for sure.
Yeah, the Wizards have been particularly bad on the road since the All-Star break, 0-5, -14 net rating. The Raptors finally finding a home in Tampa. They have the second best net rating in their last 4 home games. The results haven't been there in terms of wins, but I think going up against a Wizards team that's just Russell Westbrook and his background singers, I think you're looking at some pretty good value there. I mean, Nina Westbrook's wife, has to feel like Giselle right now. My husband can't shoot and pass the ball at the same damn time. He's just it's just him and Denny Avdija out there. It's not great for Washington. And if you take it now and Beal sits, you got to be feeling like you're sitting pretty by the time that closes. The Kings, if you jumped on it early, were only -2 at the Wolves, which is kind of a head scratcher. Wolves pretty much consensus the worst team outside of the Rockets in the West, but they did lose to the Rockets recently. They are just 9-32 when playing out of their division, and they struggle defensively, in particular in the areas of strength for the Kings. They allow the 3rd most points in the paint, 3rd most fast break points. Kings thrive on both of those things. The Kings have handled losing teams. While they've lost 3 straight, they've won 6 straight against losing teams. They've covered in 7 of their last 11 games overall, and they continue to play solid two-way ball without Marvin Bagley. That foot injury has kept him out. They've gone under in 6 of their last 8 road games, which has pushed the total down. It opened at 236, now about 233. Still kind of an intriguing under. The Wolves are going to struggle to score without Malik Beasley, Ricky Rubio, D'Angelo Russell likely still out. So I like the Kings to cover here. If the spread continues creeping up, or if you want more value, I would look at Richaun Holmes getting that double-double in a win. It's about +200 on FanDuel. He's going to need to play a lot of minutes against Karl Anthony Towns, and he's been stepping up with Bagley out as a much better two-way performer.
Yeah, yeah, I like the honestly, I like that Bagley isn't playing as we keep bringing up because it does spark that the Kings defense a bit more. And then you look at what De'Aaron Fox is doing against bad teams, as you mentioned, he's taking advantage when they've got some bad teams coming into their building or playing on the road. So I do feel comfortable with that. It feels a little bit like a trap. At listening to Admiral Akbar, there it might be a trap, but I will follow you on that one tonight for sure, just because of how bad Minnesota is and how streaky the Kings are, and they seem to be on the upward swing right now. So another team that's been on an upward swing, really, both teams, the Jazz and the Mavs, playing tonight with the Jazz favored by about 5.5 points. And both teams have been on a pretty good streak lately. The Jazz obviously won 9 in a row, and the Mavs have won 6 of their last 8. Both of those teams have not played a team above five. Only one of those teams in each of those their opponents had one. One of those teams was above 500, right? So the Mavs played Portland, was the only team that was above 500 in that 8-game span. And then the Jazz have been beating up on bad teams as well, not playing a single team over 500 except for the Nets, who didn't even have Harden and Durant. So it's going to be a test tonight for both teams, and they both play really similarly. They both are shooting a lot of threes, and defending the three a lot better, especially Dallas, who has been able to do that to the tune of keeping their opponents at 30% from three in that 8-game span we mentioned. So I just really think it's a matter of two teams who play very similar style, and one team is much better, and that's the Jazz. And they don't allow people to shoot threes, as we know. They allow the best 3-point percentage in the league at this point. And it's really, the Mavs are really streaky. That's what I'm looking at here. When the Jazz hold their opponents in their wins this year, they hold their opponents to less than 30% from three. In their losses, they hold opponents to only 45%, right? Their opponents are really able to shoot threes and beat them when they make them. I don't think Dallas, who relies so heavily on that, is going to be able to find a way to pull out a victory without making threes. And I think the Jazz will be able to contain them.
Yeah, then you're talking about a really strong correlation between a Jazz win
And
and
under.
another under
Yep.
for the Mavs, who've gone under in 7 straight home games. They play at the third slowest pace in the league. That was my particularly appealing pick when this total opened around 226 and a half. Other
Yeah.
people jumped on it as well. Now it's down to 224, probably going to continue falling because the Mavs have just been under machines. And the Jazz have a net rating of freaking 21 during this 9-game win streak. They have a defensive rating under 100, unheard of in today's NBA. Obviously, Rudy Gobert holding down the paint there. And if they can deny 3-pointers for the Mavs too, then the points are really going to struggle. Also, did you mention that Kristaps Porzingis and Josh Richardson are both game time decisions?
Right.
So that could be a big problem for the Mavericks if neither of them is able to go. Without KP, I think they average 7 less points per game. They're only around 107, and the Jazz, obviously one of the top scoring teams in the league,
Yep. And,
might
and
struggle with
Chris Stapps has turned around his defense big time as well. His defensive rating has dropped massively, so he's been a big plus on D, whereas he was not earlier in the season. So that's another boding well for the under.
Yes, sir. Last game I want to talk about is the Spurs and the Cavs. Now, this is another one with injury news to monitor. Larry Nance and Jared Allen have a chance to return from their respective injuries or illness and concussion for each of those guys. Surprising to note that the Cavs actually score a lot more and give up a lot more when Jared Allen plays. You'd think he
Mm.
was kind of that defensive stopper, but they maybe get victimized in pick and roll more. Obviously, the Spurs know how to victimize a team, one of the most efficient offensive teams. They've picked apart Eastern Conference opponents. It's resulted in 2 losses lately against the Hawks and Pacers, but those definitely went over, and they've gone over in 5 of their last 6 against Eastern Conference teams. That includes a 116-110 win in Cleveland, in which both members of Sexland scored 29 points, in which the Cavs shot 25 of 32 in the free throw line, only hit 25% of their threes, and still put up all those points. The Spurs are terrible in terms of defending the paint, right? Their defensive rating has been bottom 10 since the All-Star break, and it is the third worst, in fact, in their last 8 home games.
Mm.
So I do like the Cavs to be able to at least put up enough points to get this over. A modest total around 215, 216 right now. It is climbing as well because it's another popular pick based on the trends. But for some reason, the Spurs don't really have an answer for those young guards who step it up and are able to get into the teeth of their defense.
Yeah, and that's I think what you're looking at with the sort of bane of the Spurs' existence this year is their ability to stop guards from getting into the paint like that. And I think that's going to be a continued trend tonight. I don't understand why guys like DeJounte Murray are unable to keep guys from getting in the paint as such, but so you have it. Yeah, it's not a sexy game at all, but I think you can definitely find some value with the Spurs being a much better team than the Cavs and being undervalued there. So yeah, anything in there actually, Nate, that you're looking at for DFS or what's on the menu tonight?
In that game, I would consider Keldon Johnson. He did go 20-20 against the Cavs that last game, and he's
Yeah.
coming off a nice game there. But my favorite value play tonight is Gary Trent Jr., especially if Fred VanVleet is out. I
Yep.
mean, either way, he's going to step up. Kyle Lowry's out indefinitely for Toronto, and Gary Trent has really been thriving in that new system. Kyrie Irving is the guy to pay up for in terms of safety. James Harden closer to doubtful tonight. I would not be going with any of the Nets interior guys like Aldridge or Griffin against these Knicks, but I would consider Jeff Green against that team. Another cheap big man is Tony Bradley of the Thunder. We're looking at Isaiah Roby, Darius Bazley, Al Horford all out, probably Lou Dort too.
Yep.
The Thunder resting everyone, and you can get some value in Minnesota. Jaden McDaniels, Jordan McLaughlin, with the guys we mentioned sitting for the Wolves. Also, Jalen Noel's out for the Wolves, who's their backup point guard. And if you get some value there, maybe you can afford Karl Anthony Towns in that center spot. He's been rolling right along lately.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to pluck Kyrie tonight. I'm really liking what he does against the Knicks in New York all the time in his career. And then you look also on the other side of the ball there. You got Derrick Rose, who's been playing very well for the Knicks lately. And more importantly, that means no Elfrid Payton for the Knicks, which should be a good thing for them. So we'll see how that game goes tonight, Nate. And as we mentioned, we do have that gift card prop tonight. Go ahead and give us the total of that Dallas-Utah game tonight, total points scored by both teams. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to the page, and then jump in the comments with what you think that total will be, and we'll get that gift card out to however many people guess that correctly tonight. And that is all the time we have for today, Nate. So remember to jump on our show tomorrow. We'll be back with another full slate of games. And as for tonight, happy betting.